Good afternoon, or I guess if you're watching this later, good morning, good afternoon, good night, whenever you're watching. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Ethics Lessons from Suits. If a lot of lawyers love this show and some can't stand it because of some ethical issues we're going to talk about. Before we get underway, I want to introduce myself. My name is Brent Turman. I'm a partner in the litigation section at the full service firm of Bell Nunnally in Dallas, Texas. And before this is my second career in law, I had the best straight out of undergrad job ever. So I went to undergrad at SMU down in Dallas, Texas, and we were not very good in football back then. This is post death penalty. In 1 year, we lost every single game. So you can only imagine how excited I was to travel the country working for ESPN ABC college football, seeing the best matchups every weekend and helping putting that show on air. So back then I was a storyteller. I was telling it to football fans and anyone who had ESPN, ABC, Disney Family, all those channels. And now I am still a storyteller. But I tell persuasive stories to judges, to juries, and to arbitrators. Again, I want to thank y'all for having me back. I had an absolute blast last year doing a presentation. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on Lawline, but it is ethics lessons from HBO's Succession. And we're going to see some similar veins here, but I want to thank everyone who watched it. Y'all made that the #3 most watched webinar for Lawline last year. Just found that out at the end of the year and I was ecstatic. Thank you very much. And with that, enough about me. Let's get into the show. If we were in person, I'd ask you to raise your hands and see who's watched this show. But here's, even if you haven't watched the show, we're going to help you out. Here's how it's going to work. We're going to introduce the main characters. We're also going to talk about a few interesting storylines. And throughout this, we're going to analyze whether the characters in this TV show violated the ABA model rules. And if you've read the bio here, you read the summary, you know, most of the time, yeah, it's a violation. But with it, if you haven't seen it, this show is about what people in the media have called morally ambiguous attorneys. Some write-ups say that this show blurs the line between legal strategy and outright law breaking. Yeah, I can think of some examples. I'm going to show you some too. And there's ridiculous situations that hopefully you don't find yourself in with working with judges or bar grievances or council members or district attorneys or other crazy things happening in private practice. A few warnings before we get started. There may be a little occasional foul language. I did my best to crop it out, but sometimes it's important to have that so you have the full context. Also, I don't own this intellectual property. I don't claim to. I'm using small portions of it to teach you about something that wasn't necessarily addressed in the show.